Joining us today, we are joined with Jeremy Mullins, registered dietitian and director of the Transformation Challenge with First Form. He is joining us today to discuss with everybody kind of how to handle the circumstances we're in. It's unknown for most of us, so he's going to give some tips and to give some background on how to handle your diet and nutrition during this time.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I wish it was different circumstances that we were doing some education on, but, I think it is very important that we kind of look at the scenario and just like, the social distancing that we must do is not go too far to the left or too far to the right in what we're doing, right? So, what I always tell people is we don't want to go and, panic too much, but we don't want to have, the scenario where we just don't care. And I think the same thing goes for our nutrition game plan is, we still want to stay on track with what we're doing, okay? We still need to care about it. But, on that flip side, you don't want to go all the way over here and just be like, well, gym's closed. Let's not stop doing everything.
Pizza and Oreos every day, right?
Pizza and Oreos. That was all that I had, right?
Yep.
So the first thing I think we do look at is, don't panic over the food situation. We're not looking at something like a flood or hurricane, tornado that our food supply is limited, right? What's happening is people are just stocking up on volume. So depending on what time you are going to the store, there might be certain things that are not there, right? But the great thing is that supply chain is still there. We're still going to get, restocked with a lot of the meats and the things that are, quote, missing from the grocery stores.
Yeah.
Right? I do think it's smart to have, 2 to 4 weeks of, food there, but it's not like people need to go out and, have that right away. It could be something that you can slowly pick up a little bit extra over the next few weeks. So, first of all, the protein is probably going to be the biggest one that people are missing. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't know about at your home, but for mine, the carbohydrate sources are plenty.
Yeah.
The kids, have the shelf life stable foods that are going to be there for a long time. There's plenty of, quote, fueling sources for us to get.
Absolutely.
But I think for the protein is where people are going to miss out a little bit. And you may want to look for things that you normally don't have, like canned tuna, canned chicken, stuff that will have some longer shelf stable life. And maybe not have as much fresh meats that you would normally have.
Perfect.
So I think that's going to be our biggest, over the next few weeks. And then, from that standpoint, looking at, okay, what do I do? It really depends, where you're at, what your goals are. So, if you've been trying to reduce calories in the diet to lose weight, you may want to drop a little bit more of those calories depending on how active you are.
Okay.
Right? And I think that depends because some people actually might be more active at home than they would be at their job.
Yeah.
And I don't know that for everyone, but that's what I'm seeing when some people that normally have desk jobs that now they're working from home, they're telling me, hey Jeremy, I'm able to get in an extra hour of walking. I can do the at-home workout, versus before I really didn't get but 5,000 steps a day and then they would go to the gym. So I think it's going to vary person to person if you should even change your calories from that standpoint.
Perfect. That was one big question we had from people was how should their diet change if they are more sedentary at this time or obviously when it's a rainy day like this and they're stuck inside, it's going to be a little different for them.
And I think that would be okay, to really go by, your appetite, depending on where they're at. So if you're not hungry because you're just not as active, and that's what I'm going to see, I think a lot from our people here, is CrossFit is high intensity, right? So when you do have the longer WODs or you do have the more high intense workouts, you tend to have more cravings for food, right? Now you may still have that with the at-home workouts, but if you're doing something like a 45-minute or an hour walk, weighted walk, your appetite might not be there. And I think it is okay to let the calories come down a little bit, okay? Now that's not, once again, that's just kind of a blanket recommendation. Some of you guys out there may actually get harder workouts in at home with the at-home workouts. I think it's going to vary person to person.
Yeah, I know we have some that are planning on doing multiple workouts a day because they're going to be bored at home and kind of mix that in. So what would you recommend for people? Because a lot of the at-home workouts are longer cardio workouts instead of focusing more on the strength. Does that change what since they're not going to be getting strength work in during this time, does that change what they need to be doing or not really?
I think what's going to be, it'd be person to person, right?
Okay.
So if it was someone, that has spent the last 6 months to a year really working on their strength and trying to gain weight, I think for them, I would say make sure maybe work some rest and recovery days in there, right? And then probably keep their calories the same or increase their calories a little bit more because that individual that's going for maybe the 10-minute Metcon and focusing on strength training, was burning X amount of calories. Now they've got these 30-minute, 45-minute longer sessions.
Yeah.
They're going to be burning more calories,
Yep.
right? So if you are in that hard gainer standpoint, you've worked really hard over the last 6 months to a year, you may look at increasing your caloric load, right? And the other thing I would focus on is like, especially, always hunt the good stuff that comes out of this. Like I understand we're all stressed and we're frustrated that we have to handle some of this situation. But the way I kind of started looking at it is, okay, I've eliminated an hour of driving a day.
Yep.
Right. And then you could even add more into that, up to 2 hours a day. If you talk about, getting the kids ready, getting them out the door, get them dropped off at 2 different places, picking them up at 2 different places. Right.
Yep.
So we could focus in on some rest and recovery at this time. Try to focus in going to bed half an hour earlier, getting up a half an hour later to get an increase in hour of sleep at night.
Perfect.
Right. So, and that doesn't, change your schedule as far as getting everything that you need to get done, as far as the workout, as far as, the work you need to do, but you can still get that extra hour of sleep in and focus more in on the recovery.
Nice. And that kind of leads into, I know we had a lot of people wanting to know, is there foods they could consume or things they could do to help boost their immune system or help prevent from getting sick?
Yeah, and I think this is kind of like, the question we get asked a lot, and we look at the history of, CrossFit, we look back, it doesn't really change per se, we just maybe will put more of an emphasis on it, right? Because if we look at fruits and veggies being the most, quote, anti-inflammatory, high antioxidant foods, that's what we want to consume a lot of, right? So I don't think things change in what we should be doing. It's just we're going to put more emphasis on looking at your fruits and veggies, right? So that would probably be my biggest thing when we're looking at decreasing free radicals, increasing your antioxidants, is working more fruits and veggies into it, especially just different colors. Like a lot of people are going to be like, well, which one's is one better than the other? And I would say just go for your variety. Okay. So look at your different colored berries. They're going to be high in antioxidants. Maybe do some fruit that you normally wouldn't do, and that will help increase your immunity from that standpoint.
And I know a lot of people are trying to stock up for weeks at a time. Do you have a preference if they do? Obviously, fresh fruit and vegetables are the best, but is there a benefit or downfall to canned items, frozen items? What's your recommendation?
You don't lose that much. And I think that's one of those myths that's out there, like, okay, frozen versus canned, and then where they play that percentage. Numbers. Well, you lose 20% of the vitamins that's in there, right? But if you look at 20% of let's say there's 80 milligrams of something, well, you're not losing that much total. Right. So the 60 milligrams of vitamin C, and I'm just making these numbers up, that you're going to get from your frozen veggies is still much better than goldfish or something like that. Right. So I think you could get some frozen veggies. So I would probably, fresh, frozen, and then canned would be probably that recommendation.
Perfect. Yeah. Is there any supplements, vitamins that you would recommend during this time to help people, or just what they've normally been doing?
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like, it wouldn't change, my standard recommendation that we all need, right? And, just I always like to preface this, even if I'm lecturing to, the military or anyone, like, I work for a supplement company, people know that, right? So the way I teach these is not necessarily first form supplements, I teach them in the sense of what you need, right? So I think a multivitamin, is very important to all of us at all times, especially right now. And with a multivitamin, you would want to look for something that's not hard pressed. So your hard pressed multivitamins, if you think about it, is all this powdered vitamins just pressed into a tablet. It's hard to digest, right? So I'm going to look for like a capsule form or even a gummy. So a gummy or capsule form is going to be a better when it comes to your multivitamin. Okay. So multivitamin, and then omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, and magnesium. Those four, like, I recommend across the board to anybody, right? So athletes to grandmothers to college, students, those four, we just are low in, from a society standpoint, okay? Now, when we start looking at a little bit more specific for immune function, then yes, I would probably look at something like greens or reds and vitamin C. Okay. So if we're getting specific, like, okay, how can I boost my immunity? Those would be something I'd be looking at.
Awesome. Is there anything else you recommend to people to, consume more fluids with their food or anything during this time to just help them?
No, I mean, I'm going back to, when I'm teaching and to my people is going back to what we touched on before is, okay, with anything, whether it be training, whether it be sickness, whether it be stress, the way to recover that was sleep. right? So focusing on getting that extra hour, of sleep and working on the quality of the sleep. And I get it. Some of you guys might be new mothers. Some of you guys might be, working multiple jobs, whatever the case is, that you can only get so much, and that's okay. We would just want to focus on the quality that we're getting, right? Yes, if you can get more quantity, please get more quantity. I think that would help, but also focus on the quality and the quantity that you are getting.
Perfect. I think one final thing is we do have a lot of people that are going to be on the front lines and working longer hours during this time. Nurses, some doctors, our police, our firemen. Do you have any recommendations? Because they might have to go 12 or 15 hours without eating while they're on shift. Do you have any recommendations for them to prepare themselves better and to still be at a high level while they're working?
Yeah, and we can get into just a fasting protocol too, because I know that question came up, and that's generally who as far as clientele, if I was going to have someone fast on purpose, it would be, first responders, right? Because they're put into in their shifts, sometimes they might not need to eat for 10 or 12 hours, right? And the education on that is, a lot of times we do read, and it's not too bad in our CrossFit community and culture as it is in the general fitness culture, right? A lot of people read, okay, you got to eat 6 times a day, right? And that's where, we look at lifestyles. Yes, there's certain lifestyle diets that fit based on our goals. Most people that do CrossFit, it's a performance goal first with a little bit of an aesthetics goal, right? And then health. Like it's a good mixture, okay? When you start getting into more bodybuilding, a lot of times that aesthetics goal is over top of performance and health, right? So you don't have to eat 6 times a day to have success. And I think right now for those first responders, or even for the gym goer, where you're not doing as much high intensity, you're able maybe to sleep in a little bit more, playing with some fasting wouldn't be a bad idea, right? And the definition of fasting, if you think about it, breakfast is breaking the fast. So theoretically, we all fast. So from the last, feeding at night until your breakfast the next day, that's a feeding, a fasting window. So just pushing that out a little bit may work for people, during this time, and it wouldn't be bad to encourage that to our first responders, right? Awesome. And it doesn't change their goals as far as protein intake and caloric intake. It's just when you're fasting, you're taking all that nutrition and just putting it within a certain window.
Perfect. No, I think that's all good information, and we appreciate you spending some time and educating all the members, and hopefully you guys got some good information out of that.
Yeah, like I said, guys, I wouldn't overthink the next, 2, 3, 4 weeks or however long we're with this. For some of you guys, it may actually be, a positive change in a way from a nutritional standpoint. Don't overthink it. And as we mentioned, a lot of the stuff that we're going to do the next few weeks should be stuff that we're doing all the time. There's just a little bit more of emphasis on it right now.
Perfect. Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.